Part 100. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1015. Not to mention Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang, who were fighting fiercely, Qiang Gui passed through several walls in a flash and was very close to the scanning device of Ge Xiaolun and his team. Just as Qiang Gui passed through a wall, an inexplicable feeling hit her. Qiang Gui froze immediately, and when she was about to retreat, a wall in front of her shattered, and a black halberd pierced out from the scattered rubble. "I found you." Faced with Yaowen's terrifying stab, Qiang Gui disappeared directly and appeared a few meters away. Seeing that Yaowen had lost his target, he immediately stopped his forward movement, turned around and reached out to make a fist in Qiang Gui's direction. The ground under Rose's feet suddenly swelled up and turned into a giant rock hand, holding her firmly within it. "Qiang Gui, we have been guarding against you for a long time. I have calculated the surrounding earth in advance. You cannot escape my grasp of the earth." Yaowen is very confident in his words, but this is not a lie. His heart of the earth has a great advantage in fighting on the surface of the planet, because his weapons are everywhere. In the universe, unless there are asteroids around, there are no conditions for Yaowen to use his algorithm. Therefore, Yaowen wants to exert his maximum combat power and is very restricted by terrain conditions. Qiang Gui looked ugly, but she did not give up resistance because although the energy shield on her body was weakening, it did not disappear, which meant that she still had a chance. Just as she thought, Qiang Gui disappeared from the fist that was transformed from the earth. When she reappeared, she was in the air behind Yaowen and threw out her dark alloy dagger. Yaowen turned around and knocked it away with a halberd, but he seemed to have forgotten Qiang Gui's micro-wormhole transportation. The dark alloy dagger that was knocked away sank into the opened wormhole, and when it reappeared, it was already on Yaowen's back. This was a dark alloy dagger that exerted his own power. Chen Yaowen was staggered by the impact, and the shield on his body was visibly weakened. Just when Qiang Gui was about to dodge again and distance herself from here to discuss the long term, a figure with a golden electric light behind him suddenly opened the dilapidated door and rushed in. "Master Xian is here, don't even think about escaping." Seeing Xian Zhao rushing towards her, Qiang Gui had no time to calculate the long-distance wormhole shuttle, so she could only carry out an ultra-short-distance wormhole shuttle. Facing the sudden disappearance of Qiang Gui, Xian Zhao, who knew her ability, looked around decisively and found Qiang Gui emerging from the wormhole. Without any hesitation, Xian Zhao directly turned the dark alloy spear in his hand, used the tail of the spear as a front, and threw it hard. Before Qiang Gui could react, she was hit by a flying spear, and the huge kinetic energy knocked her directly from the air to the ground. Although she didn't have much trouble, you can imagine what the rose fell on the ground represented. The next moment, the soil under her body seemed to come alive, quickly clinging to her body. In the end, only one of Qiang Gui's heads was exposed, and the rest of her body was covered by solid soil. At this time, the shield energy on her body disappeared automatically. It was obvious that Jace, who was watching the training, judged that she was killed. Seeing this, Qiang Gui simply gave up her resistance. Seeing this, Yaowen also released his restraint on her. "Concession, concession." Xian Zhao and Yaowen said with a smile. Qiang Gui waved her hands and said helplessly, "I just came to investigate the situation, but I didn't expect that you two would catch me." "He, Xiaolun has long judged that you will not give up Qiang Gui's mobility advantage, so he asked us to wait here." Xian Zhao wanted to chat for a while longer, but Yaowen gave him a light hammer on the back and urged, "There will be plenty of time to chat in the future, so hurry up and support Xiaolun." Hearing this, Zhao Xian also reacted and hurriedly rushed out of the room with Yaowen to support Ge Xiaolun, who was competing with Lu Chuang. At this moment, the battle between Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang has been upgraded several levels compared to the beginning. During the battle, the dark energy in their bodies began to increase rapidly. The external manifestation is that when their weapons collide, it is no longer just a simple shock wave, but also an energy impact caused by the collision of dark energy. The crumbling houses that had been shaken by the aftermath of their fight collapsed and turned into ruins. At this moment, in the headquarters of the Xiangbing Company, Tukeo was standing in front of the big screen watching the training, and Lian Feng on the side was summarizing the data. According to the results we scanned, the super genes in the bodies of Nyuxing God of War and Galaxy Force are affected by each other's dark energy radiation and are constantly accelerating and strengthening. It seems that as gods of war, they should become stronger quickly in battle. It just so happened that there was a challenge waiting for them next. Pick up Sun Wukong and ask him if he can stop Doughty's forward. It's General Tukeo. Yukin, who served as the medical and liaison officer of the Xiangbing Company, immediately began to operate the computer in front of her and connected to Sun Wukong, who was currently in the orbit of the Moon, through the Dino satellite in the outer orbit of Blue Star. Old Sun, how is the situation now? Have you seen Doughty's fleet? Lao Du, is your intelligence wrong? I only saw a large cross-shaped ship, but not the fleet you mentioned. That's better. This means that the other party underestimated us. Is Lao Sun confident about destroying it? Old Du, don't underestimate me. In my eyes, it is just a bigger toy. Sun Wukong's disdainful words came from the communication, and the liaison officers of the command headquarters couldn't help but secretly gasped. Sun Dashan, listened to his tone and did not take dangerous alien invaders in his eyes at all. By the way, old Sun, leave a few enemies behind. Those little guys in the Xiangbing Company need to see blood, otherwise they will never become true warriors. Sun Wukong did not respond, but Tukeo knew that he had agreed, and all that was left was to wait for the news. In the orbit of the Moon, Sun Wukong, wearing his iconic armor and holding a dark alloy rod in his hand, raised his head and saw the doughty Pioneer, which was not hiding at all and was rapidly approaching China. I didn't expect that my old grandson would run into you group of aliens who have ill intentions towards China just after he woke up. It's just a good time for my old grandson to stretch his muscles. As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Wukong turned into a stream of light and flew towards Titan's vanguard ship, crashing into its light energy barrier with a bang. In an instant, the doughty in the entire vanguard ship felt the world spinning, waiting for them to finally regain their feet. The captain received news like a bolt from the blue. The strength of the light energy barrier of the vanguard ship dropped by nearly half, almost overloading it. At this time, the Pioneer ship's scanning system finally discovered the uninvited guest blocking their navigation path and gave relevant information. The doughty warrior who saw the information almost trembled and reported the information to the captain of the vanguard ship. Report, we are blocked by Sun Wukong from China. According to the information in the database, the opponent is a half-beast third-generation god. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1016. Before the gluttonous vanguard captain could say anything, Sun Wukong's voice forcefully invaded the bridge where he was. You foreigners, if you just retreat, I, old Sun, can spare your lives. Although Captain Doughty wanted to order a retreat, the order to come to the Chaiwa star system to recover the power of the Divine River and the Nyo star god of war super gene was given by King Doughty. The Doughty king was executing orders from their main god Karl, so he couldn't retreat even if he wanted to. But fortunately, his king had expected to encounter some difficulties when he came to the Chaiwa star system this time, so his vanguard flagship carried a 5-team formation with a total of 20 warriors who had received the blessing of death. Seeing that Sun Wukong's arrival was unkind and that the opponent's reputation as a third-generation god was really bluffing, Captain Doughty Pioneer directly ordered all 5 formations to go out and attack him without leaving anyone behind. When Sun Wukong from the outside saw the vanguard ship stopped, he thought that the other party was afraid and was about to turn around and leave, So he did not take action immediately. After all, his master once taught him that as long as the bottom line was not violated, everything could be discussed. In Sun Wukong's concept, as long as he enters the land of China and takes action, he has violated his bottom line, otherwise he would not be as calm and official as he is now. But it was obvious that this group of extraterrestrial visitors had no intention of returning home. A dozen figures that were extremely small compared to the vanguard ship quickly flew out of the battleship. When he got closer, Sun Wukong realized that it was just a group of robots with big wings. "Sun Wukong, we are here on the orders of my god Carl. If you don't want to die, please get out of the way." Compared with ordinary Dowdy warriors, the Dowdy warrior who had received the blessing of death obviously had a much louder tone. It seemed that his companions gave him confidence. "Hey, your tone is quite loud. I just don't know if you are strong enough to take a blow from me without warning." After the words fell, the peace on Sun Wukong's face suddenly turned into a fierce one. There seemed to be golden flames burning in his eyes, and the dark alloy rod in his hand was raised and extended backwards quickly. "Don't be careless, the other party is a third-generation god." A Dowdy mechanical warrior reminded his companions in the communication while using the turbine in the flying wing behind him and the anti-gravity engine in the body to quickly move to one side, but the next moment his body was hit by a dark alloy rod that turned into a giant pillar. And suddenly there was silence. At this time, more than a dozen blessed Dowdy warriors had dispersed and surrounded Sun Wukong, with a blue glow of blazing energy appearing on the sword in their hands. It seemed that they wanted to take advantage of the number of people and pull the battle into a close combat, but some of them raised the particle beam cannon in their other hands and fired at Sun Wukong to cover their companions. Naturally, Sun Wukong would not stand still and be used as a target. He avoided the incoming particle beams while moving and frequently swung the dark alloy rod in his hand. Each time, an approaching Dowdy mechanical warrior would be knocked away, sparks flashing from the indentation of his body armor, and it would take a while for him to recover. "What the hell is going on? What is the stick in his hand?" a Dowdy mechanical warrior asked in a deep voice over the communication, but he was answered by silence from his companions. Sun Wukong discovered that simple physical strikes in the universe seemed unable to wipe out the Dowdy mechanical warriors at once, so he changed his tactics. A layer of brilliant golden dark energy surged on the dark alloy rod, and then the lengthened rod body struck a Dowdy mechanical warrior. In an instant, something seemed to shatter. The glutton's body was directly penetrated by the dark alloy rod. As Sun Wukong shook his weapon, his body exploded into pieces instantly. "I see. No wonder you were able to eat my old grandson's stick. It turns out that you still have a layer of skin on your body to protect you." Seeing that his companion's body was broken into pieces by a stick, the remaining Dowdy mechanical warrior instantly felt bad. "Disperse quickly, the void shield cannot block his attack." As a byproduct of Carl's void engine development project, gluttonous warriors who have received the blessing of death will be transformed into mechanical bodies to make up for the physical gap between them and super warriors. Its body will also be loaded with the first-generation void engine. This immature engine has extremely limited functions. It can only form a layer of void energy shield to protect itself, and convert a certain amount of void energy for the loader to use. Only the second-generation void engine can truly suppress the dark energy of super warriors. These two types of void engines are already the limit of what conventional void engines can achieve. For example, the third-generation special type of void engine equipped by Huaya must be manufactured with the help of special materials produced by black holes, such as void matter. The conventional third-generation void engine only increases the output of the second-generation void engine and has no essential changes. At the same time, the manufacturing cycle is too long and it is difficult to mass-produce. Therefore, except for some special beings in the Styx galaxy, the third-generation void engine was basically not given to anyone else by Carl. Like now, after Sun Wukong discovered the existence of the void energy shield, He activated the dark energy in his body to attack, and the casualties of the Daodi mechanical warriors immediately increased. Basically, Sun Wukong struck one at a time, and in the blink of an eye, only the last 4 of the dozen or so Daodi mechanical warriors were left. The rest were either smashed into pieces, or were swept away by dark alloy rods. However, Sun Wukong still remembered that Tukeo asked him to leave a few enemies for the little guys in the Xiangbing company to practice, so he did not kill them all. But the remaining Daodi warriors were also frightened by Sun Wukong, because they couldn't touch Sun Wukong at all, but Sun Wukong could hit them. Retreat quickly, we are no match for him. Faced with a battle that was impossible to win, even the Daodi warriors who believed in death had the idea of escape. Seeing the deterioration of the battle situation, the captain of the vanguard ship quickly ordered fire cover. In an instant, a dazzling crimson light beam shot out, grazing Sun Wukong and falling onto the vast ocean of blue star behind. Although Sun Wukong was not injured, his heart became angry. If the attack just landed in China, how many casualties would it cause, and this was all because of his negligence. Thinking of this, Sun Wukong clenched the dark alloy rod in his hand, and it suddenly began to extend toward the other end, and its diameter became thicker and thicker. After the diameter of the other end of the dark alloy rod reached nearly 100 meters and its length exceeded several kilometers, Sun Wukong let out a sharp shout and swung it hard towards the gluttonous vanguard ship. The shockwave visible to the naked eye began to spread from the place where the pioneer ship's light energy barrier was hit by the dark alloy rod, and then the light energy barrier was able to withstand nuclear bomb attacks and was directly overloaded and shattered into energy debris. The dark alloy rod in Sun Wukong's hand hit Daodi's vanguard ship with almost unabated force, causing half of it to collapse immediately, and swept it all the way to the moon not far away. In the end, Daodi's pioneer ship crashed directly on the lunar surface. Except for 4 Daodi mechanical warriors who did not board the ship, no one among the nearly 10,000 Daodi warriors on the ship survived. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1017. While Sun Wukong was having a fierce battle with the incoming Daodi pioneer ship in outer space, the actual combat training of the first and second teams of the Xiangbing company also came to an end. Faced with the fairy-like fight between Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang, Yaowen and Zhao Xian finally wisely chose not to get involved because they were afraid that their fragile body bones would not be able to withstand the heavy blow that could create a crack several meters long in the ground. Rui Mengmeng, who was responsible for guarding the scanning equipment of the second team, although his character was a bit cowardly, he seriously completed the tasks assigned by Lu Chuang, the temporary captain. This is why Ge Xiaolun and the others feel distressed and helpless towards their younger sister, because she only has some communication difficulties, but is essentially a very serious girl. With the cooperation of Xian Zhao and Yaowen, Rui Mengmeng was naturally controlled without any resistance and was kicked out of the game. As the scanning device was shut down by Yaowen, this actual combat exercise officially declared the failure of the second team. Lu Chuang, who was suppressing Ge Xiaolun and beating him, heard Jace, the captain of the Xiangbing company, shouting to stop in the communication. He sighed and sat down on the ground, lying back on the ground, his chest heaving violently. Ge Xiaolun on the other side didn't give in too much. He also felt very tired and lay on the ground to rest. He didn't feel it before, but now he found that his whole body was in severe pain. However, this feeling was quickly relieving as he rested. By the time Yaowen, Zhao Xian, and others came over, Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang had almost recovered. Xiaolun, your kid's strategy is pretty good. I didn't expect you to see through all our actions. Lu Chuang patted Ge Xiaolun's shoulder and praised, while Ge Xiaolun shook his head slightly and said, It's just luck and coincidence. If Qiangwei and Rui Mengmeng attack Yaoan and the others together, we still don't know what the result will be. At this time, Jace also brought Kailan to a group of Xiangbing Company soldiers, and scolded Qiangwei when they came up. Qiangwei, as a combatant with high mobility, you made a very fatal mistake during this actual combat exercise. That is to rush into the defensive area of a team without sufficient intelligence support. If you are on the battlefield, you will be dead. And Lu Chuang, you too, run over alone to attract the attention of a team. If Ge Xiaolun cooperates with Yao and Zhao Xian, the three of them will ambush you and you will be gone. But here I want to praise Rui Mengmeng. She performed her duties very well. Although she failed in the end, she was a qualified warrior. Jace's scolding made Lu Chuang and others in the first team lower their heads in frustration. Seeing Lu Chuang and others from the second team being reprimanded, Zhao Xian and Yaoan from the first team were a little gloating, but then Jess turned his gun towards them. What's so funny? On the one hand, you can win because of your strength, but on the other hand, it's just pure luck. As the captain, Ge Xiaolun, you don't give orders but challenge Lu Chuang in a one-on-one battle. The battlefield is not a duel. A god-killing crossbow bolt from the dark can directly injure you. And Zhao Xinyawen and you too, winning is important, but taking the opportunity to annihilate the enemy's strength when you gain an advantage will make the victory more stable. If Ge Xiaolun is defeated by Lu Chuang, I would like to ask how you plan to deal with him. Suddenly the smiles on Xi and Zhao and Yaoan's faces froze, and they looked away, not daring to look into Jace's eyes. Ge Xiaolun was magnanimous and did not dodge Jess's gaze. As the saying goes, you must stand at attention when being beaten. This is an unspoken rule in the army. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can mention it later. And what Jess said was right. His simple tactical plan this time was just a bet. If he won the bet, he would win, and if he lost, he would be completely defeated. But Jess changed his tone and began to praise Ge Xiaolun. Although you are gambling, it is not entirely true. You have considered in advance that the second team is likely to use Qiangwei's micro-wormhole transport ability to sneak in. If you play head-on, you will hardly have a chance against the second team, so in this actual combat exercise, your victory is not entirely dependent on luck. As a commander on the battlefield, you have to consider all aspects and formulate appropriate tactics based on intelligence. Moreover, tactics never have a 100% success rate. You need to make timely adjustments according to the situation during the execution of tactics. Only in this way can you be considered a qualified commander. Having said so much, Jace had achieved his goal and was about to announce his disbandment and take a rest when he suddenly received a communication request from the headquarters of the Xiangbing Company. Aja, how is the situation over there? Is the condition of the first team of Xiangbing Company in good condition? Jess knew something was wrong as soon as he heard this, and immediately answered in the communication. Report to General Dukeo that the first team of the Xiangbing Company is currently in good condition and ready to go into battle at any time. Well, take your team to this area, where alien invaders were discovered. At present, the army has evacuated the surrounding tourists and ordinary people, and your task is to destroy him. Do you have the confidence to complete this mission? Report to the general, confident. Jace ended his communication with Dukeo, looked at the soldiers of the Xiangbing Company who were looking at him in confusion, and said seriously, I have good news and bad news for you. Seeing that everyone didn't speak and just looked at him quietly, Jace said in a deep voice. The bad news is that your rest time is gone. The good news is that our Xiangbing Company's first mission since its formation is here. Hearing this, Ge Xiaolun and the others held their breath and waited for Jace's next words. Everyone is here now. Bring your equipment and follow me to the academy playground to board the plane. I will explain the details of the mission to you on the helicopter. Following Jace's order, the first team of the Xiangbing Company, including Jace, a total of 9 people, quickly got on the transport vehicle they came in and returned to the academy. Sitting on the transport helicopter, the relaxed atmosphere before disappeared without a trace. Even the careless Xin Zhao knew that now was not the time to make jokes. An hour ago, I received news from the command center that an alien warship approached Blue Star. After being destroyed, an alien warrior landed on Earth. And his location is exactly the destination we are going to reach, and this time our mission is to eliminate this alien invader. According to intelligence, the alien invader possesses extremely powerful armor and is equipped with a beam cannon and an energy-cutting sword. So when you arrive at the target area, try your best not to be injured by the enemy's weapons, because except for Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang, none of you can withstand the damage of this level of energy weapons. Jace said seriously, and Ge Xiaolun and others present also nodded, and began to formulate tactics under Jace's instruction. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 1018. Lu Chuang will be the main attack in a while, Yaoan will assist from the side, and Xin Zhao, try not to let him fly. Kylin, your long-range sniper suppression is of course the best if you can hit his weak points. Qiang Guiyu assisted Kylin to move quickly. She is the most vulnerable among us. Don't let her get hurt. Rui Mengmeng and I fill in. If anyone is injured, we will step in. That's it for now, no one has any objections. Kylin, who had been sitting there quietly holding the sniper rifle, pursed her lips. She wanted to say that she didn't need Qiang Gui's protection, but after thinking about it, she still didn't refuse. Although Qiang Gui was a little dissatisfied with being kicked out of the main battle ranks, she couldn't find a better way. Besides, as a soldier, she would not refuse to carry out orders from her superiors. Although Jess gave Ge Xiaolun the right to formulate tactics, as the captain, Jess had no objections, and she certainly could not object. I can't find anything wrong with Xiaolun's tactics, so for the time being I will follow this tactic for the rest of the battle. As the captain, Jess had already understood the nature of the mission before boarding the plane, so he delegated power very strongly. Moreover, Yu Qin, the medical officer of the Xiangbing Company, will be fully involved during this mission, and Sun Wukong will also be watching from the sky. There is a risk of injury, but no one should die. Soon the Xiangbing Company personnel arrived at the mountain forest in the mission area. Because the enemy had energy weapons, the helicopter would become a target if it got closer, so Ge Xiaolun and a group of Xiangbing Company soldiers got off the plane in advance and entered the area where the mission target was on foot. Thousands of meters above the night sky, Sun Wukong stood in the sky, the monkey hair on his temples swaying slightly in the high-altitude breeze. In the void on one side of Sun Wukong, a doughty warrior who had experienced the blessing of death was imprisoned in the solidified space. This is one of the little tricks developed by Sun Wukong based on his genetic engine and his understanding of the space where clones are stored. Although it is of no use against stronger super soldiers, it is still very useful for dispatching some minions. As the frozen space returned to normal, the doughty warrior, who had been imprisoned for several hours, immediately distanced himself from Sun Wukong and said in a deep voice, "What do you mean? I am a warrior who believes in my god Karl. I will not ask for mercy from you. Haha, I, old son, have no interest in accepting your begging for mercy. Did you see the group of boys below? Your next opponents will be them." The dark alloy rod in Sun Wukong's hand pointed at Ge Xiaolun and a group of soldiers from the Xiangbing Company who said in a deep voice, "Why should I listen to you? If you kill my brother, I will only perish in the battle with you." After saying this, the gluttonous warrior drove the turbine flying wings on his back to quickly rush towards Sun Wukong's position. "I'll give you face but you won't accept it? I have to do it myself." As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Wukong smashed the doughty warrior to the ground from a height of several thousand meters, causing a crater of several meters. and the location is also very clever, more than 10 meters away from the soldiers of the Xiangbing Company. It has to be said that the quality of the doughty warrior's mechanical body is strong enough. After suffering such a heavy blow, there was no malfunction. The doughty warrior quickly got up from the ground. But there was only a gunshot, and a god-killing armor-piercing bullet carrying huge kinetic energy hit the doughty warrior's head, which was protected by the mask, causing him to stagger backward. Then Lu Chuang rushed out of the bushes, roared, and swung out the double-edged tomahawk in his hand, hitting him on the waist. The doughty warrior who had just climbed up flew out again, broke several tree trunks and fell to the ground. Oh, this alien is different. I can split open a tank with my axe, but it didn't even cut into his body. When Lu Chuang spoke, he did not forget to rush towards the doughty warrior. However, he still remembered that he was the main attacker and he must cling to the opponent. At this moment, the doughty warrior was filled with anger. He looked down at the armor on his waist and found that there was only a deep gap. Fortunately, the driving parts were not damaged and did not affect his movement. As soon as the doughty warrior got up, he found that the surrounding earth seemed to come alive. It quickly climbed up his body and sealed it into a hill more than 10 meters tall. Lu Chuang took a closer look, turned back and praised Yaowen. "Yao Wen, you are good at this. He seems to be trapped by you." Lu Chuang followed Ge Xiaolun not far away, and Rui Mengmeng breathed a sigh of relief when he saw this. Since the enemy had been captured, the mission could be declared over. But soon everyone noticed that Yaowen's face was serious, and the next second Yaowen shouted fiercely, "No, I can't trap him anymore." The next second, the hillock formed by soil and gravel exploded violently, and a figure emerged from the ground. It was none other than the doughty warrior. "You are a bunch of lowly bugs. If I can't beat him, I can't kill you either." After saying that, the gluttonous warrior did not plan to go to Sun Wukong to beg for death. He planned to kill the group of people wearing black armor in front of him first. "Get down here, you!" Xian Zhao rushed out from the rising slope, slamming the spear in his hand at the doughty warrior in mid-air, trying to push him back to the ground. But the doughty warrior turned around and with a clang of his mechanical sword, which was surging with energy, Xian Zhao flew away and fell into the woods and disappeared. Broken. Ge Xiaolun thought to himself and immediately ran in the direction of Kailin. At this time, Kailin, who was hundreds of meters away, fired. The doughty warrior dodged the incoming god-killing armor-piercing bullet on one side of his body. His faceplate automatically calculated the trajectory of the bullet. He raised his hand and fired a particle beam at it. Boom! Hundreds of meters away, a cloud of fire exploded where Kailin was. Seeing this, Ge Xiaolun quickly called Kailin and Qianggui on the communication line. A few seconds later, Qianggui's voice sounded over the communication, "We're fine. I've already moved Kailin with me." The doughty warrior, who thought he had defeated the enemy's sniper, also focused on Lu Chuang, who had knocked him away before. He did not swoop down immediately, but first rewarded Lu Chuang with several particle beams. Lu Chuang was so disgraced that he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of mud. As soon as he got up, he challenged the glutton in the sky. "Your grandpa, if you have the ability, come down and challenge me. What's the point of hiding in the sky?" A meaningless provocation, but I accepted it. As soon as he finished speaking, the doughty warrior suddenly swooped down from the air, and with the help of the momentum, the mechanical sword in his hand slashed hard at Lu Chuang's body. Before Lu Chuang's axe could land on the doughty warrior, he rolled his eyes and flew out. He landed on the ground hundreds of meters away and slid back for more than 10 meters. In the general headquarters of Xiangbing Company, Yukin reported on the battle situation. "The body of Nyoxing war god is slightly damaged and it will take 3 seconds to recover. It seems that they are still far from being able to truly stand alone. Now a mere gluttonous soldier can beat them like this. How can they cope with the upcoming war? Takeo has seen really big scenes, so he shook his head at the current performance of the Seongbing Company. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1019. Compared to Takeo's nitpicking, Lian Feng, a teacher at the Super Seminary and a genetic engineering engineer, felt that the performance of the Seongbing Company was not bad. General, your demands are too high. For super soldiers, they are too young now, equivalent to newborn babies. But look at their opponent. He claims to be one of the few warriors among Daodi who has received the blessing of death, and is also equipped with an unknown genetic engine. It is normal to be able to suppress the powerful army that has been formed for less than a year, and Ge Xiaolun and the others have a chance of victory. After all, the Daodi warriors don't have god-killing weapons, so they can't really cause fatal damage to Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang. As Lu Chuang was knocked out, the Daodi warrior immediately followed up and prepared to hit him, but as the god-killing sniper rifle fired again, the angle of the bullets this time was a bit tricky, and the Daodi warrior did not dodge. The huge kinetic energy hit him, and combined with the special destructive substance filled inside the god-killing armor-piercing bullet, it directly knocked the Daodi warrior out of the air. A piece of the armor on his head was also shattered, exposing the internal mechanical parts. The reason for this effect is that the god-killing armor-piercing bullet is a special bullet developed to restrain super soldiers. It has no obvious effect on the mechanical body of the Daodi warrior, otherwise one shot can teach him how to behave. But as Kylin fired, the fact that she was still alive was exposed. The Daodi warriors also learned the lesson and no longer flew to high altitudes. Instead, they stayed close to the ground and quickly passed through the forest, constantly approaching Kylan's position. Listening to the sound of trees gradually approaching collapse, even Kylan felt a trace of panic. It was the instinct of living creatures when facing huge dangers, and they could not control it at all. Qiangwei on the side quickly pulled Kylan up, calculated a wormhole leading to several hundred meters away, and prepared to transfer. Suddenly a blue beam of light penetrated all the tree trunks in its path and hit the position where Kylan had just fired. It exploded with a bang. The huge shockwave pushed Qiangwei and Kylan apart. Qiangwei felt a chill in her heart just as she regained her composure, because she had already seen the conspicuous tall figure of the Daodi warrior in the forest. Gritting her teeth, Qiangwei took out her dark alloy dagger, climbed up from the ground, and prepared to protect Kylan. Even though she knew that she was no match for the Daodi warrior, she would not back down because this was her mission. God-killing armor-piercing bullets are not something that a mere post-nuclear civilization can possess. It seems that you are the Dino remnants that my god mentioned. The Daodi warrior observed the god-killing sniper rifle in Kylan's hand combined with the god-killing armor-piercing bullets just now, and figured out the identities of the soldiers of the Seongbing Company. Faced with such a critical situation, Jace, who was paddling in the dark, couldn't help but aim the warhammer at the Daodi warriors, but at this moment a voice came from the communication. Aja, calm down, Ge Xiaolun is already here, it's not the time for you to take action yet, and you don't want this trial to end so simply. I know, but I will terminate this trial when I think it is appropriate. After all, they are my team members, and I don't want them to have any accidents in front of me. Jace let out a heavy breath, and then said to Takeo on the other end of the communication. Although his tone was not tough, it was full of an undeniable meaning. Kylan leaned against the tree trunk behind her. As soon as the sniper rifle in her hand was pointed at the Daodi warrior, she was grabbed by him, squeezed out of shape, snatched away and thrown aside. Kylan gritted her teeth and quickly took out the pistol in the holster on her thigh and fired at the enemy who was close at hand, but all the bullets were deflected. Kylan suddenly became desperate. She stared at the falling mechanical giant sword and felt that she might die here. At the critical moment, a dark alloy dagger flew out of the void and hit the Daodi warrior in the face. At the same time, Kylin also felt her arm being grabbed and pulled to the side. The weapon in the doughty warrior's hand fell down almost as soon as he left the spot, cutting a burning mark on the ground. No one noticed the almost fleeting energy shield on Kylin just now. At this moment, she and Qiangwei were running wildly away from Doughty. "You can't escape." The doughty warrior floated in the air and flew quickly towards Qiangwei and Kylin, who were escaping. Just as the distance between the two parties was reduced to less than 5 meters, a figure rushed out from one side and hit the doughty warrior, knocking him away. "Hurry and retreat to a safe area." After speaking, Ge Xiaolun held his own dark alloy sword and looked at the doughty warrior, who got up from the ground warily. The size difference between the two sides was like that of an adult and a child, but Ge Xiaolun did not have any fear. He only had one thought now, which was to block the opponent. "Another one, you are really done for, but this time I will kill you and go find someone else." The doughty warrior also discovered that the Xiangbing company had a large number of people and could no longer be pulled away by the opponent, so he also became ruthless and planned to fight Ge Xiaolun to the death here first and decide whether to live or die. "Then you do it first and then talk about it?" After the words fell, Ge Xiaolun launched the attack first, holding a big sword and slashing at the doughty warrior. The big swords in the hands of the two collided and released a shockwave, but the stalemate only lasted for a moment. Ge Xiaolun was pushed back several steps by the huge force from the weapons before he stabilized his body. The doughty warrior took advantage of the victory and pursued the attack. He strode forward and slashed down with his giant sword one after another. Ge Xiaolun was beaten and could only parry. Seeing an opportunity, the doughty warrior kicked Ge Xiaolun away as he blocked the sword. Before he could land, the doughty warrior struck out with another sword, and a huge gap was cut out of Ge Xiaolun's dark alloy armor. As soon as he landed on the ground, before Ge Xiaolun could take a breath, a big metal foot trampled his head into the ground. Ge Xiaolun vaguely heard Lu Chuang's anxious voice in the communication. "Xiaolun, hold on, I'll be there soon." Hearing the sound, Ge Xiaolun immediately woke up, reached out and hugged the doughty warrior's big foot and twisted it, causing the doughty warrior to almost fall. Ge Xiaolun took the opportunity to get up, picked up his sword and quickly retreated to avoid the doughty warrior's swing. "Master Chuang, if you don't come here, I will be responsible for you today." Ge Xiaolun squinted his swollen right eye and stared at the doughty warrior in front of him, and replied in the communication with rapid breathing. "Yaoan is already in place. Brother Lung, I'm here too." And Lu Chuang's voice, which Ge Xiaolun had longed for, finally came to mind. "I'm here too." Ge Xiaolun's tense expression finally revealed a faint smile. "Now that everyone is here, let's give him a big one." Hearing Ge Xiaolun's voice, Yaoan, Zhao Xian, and Lu Chuang all looked serious. Blocking the doughty warrior's slashing sword, feeling the energy from its blade across his face, Ge Xiaolun shouted with the loudest voice in his life. "Give me so much silence." The doughty warrior suddenly felt that his body was on strike, and his mind was disconnected from his body. At this time, the ground beneath the doughty warrior suddenly lifted it up. A figure jumped from the forest on one side to dozens of meters in the air. The double-edged battle axe in his hand was raised high above his head, and he slashed at the gap that had been cut in the waist of the flying doughty warrior. "Death to me!" Lu Chuang's roar pierced the sky, and his fallen battle axe split the doughty warrior in two from the waist. At this time, Xian Zhao sprinted from hundreds of meters away, like a golden lightning, and the long sword in his hand stabbed into the goggles on Doughty's upper body and head. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1020. Everyone in the Xiangbing company gathered around the remains of the doughty warrior that was divided into two parts and marveled at how powerful this guy was. At this time, Jace also walked out. Congratulations on passing this test. You have completed this combat mission very well. Captain, what are you talking about? Is this a test for us? Yes, the enemy in front of you is just one of the many invading Blue Star gluttons. They were captured by Sun Wukong, the patron saint of China, to train your fighting abilities and cooperation. When Jace spoke, he motioned for everyone to look at the sky. The Xiangbing company and the others looked up and saw a figure slowly falling from the sky. Then everyone in the Xiangbing company opened their eyes in shock, because the appearance of Sun Wukong in the sky was not exactly the same as the description in the mythical story, but it was not much different. For example, Lu Chuang shouted excitedly and kept patting Ge Xiaolun on the back to tell him to look quickly. Brother Monkey! Look, it's Brother Monkey! Master Chuang, I'm not blind, can you stop being so excited? Oh, can I not be excited? That's my idol. After the excitement of the Xiangbing company lasted for a short while, it gradually subsided, and Sun Wukong also landed on the ground in front of them. The Sun Wukong in your myth is not me. Most of those stories are made up by people, but there is one thing they described correctly. When I entered the heavenly court of Yungxiao, I was indeed called the Monkey King. Sun Wukong didn't put on any airs, and explained the problem of addressing Xian Zhao and others. So Brother Monkey, did you really go to the mythical heaven and meet the Jade Emperor? Ge Xiaolun said with some curiosity. After all, he was very curious about the gods and ghosts in myths and legends. After all, he had never seen a ghost since he was a child. He does know about God. He heard teacher Lian Feng say that he will be a god in the future, and he also has a name called the Power of the Galaxy. Sun Wukong snorted when he heard Ge Xiaolun's question, and then said, "What kind of heaven and gods are there? It's just a big ship of the Liang people. They call themselves the Heavenly Court of Yungxiao. Does that mean they are all aliens too?" Sun Wukong was very satisfied with Ge Xiaolun's name for the Liang people and nodded towards him approvingly. Seeing a group of young men from Xiangbing company chatting endlessly with Sun Wukong, Jace couldn't help but interrupt loudly. "Okay, everyone, if you want to chat, we will have plenty of time when we get to the new base." After hearing the words of their captain, Ge Xiaolun and others quickly ended the topic. As soldiers, they still have this consciousness. After that, Ge Xiaolun and his party did not return to the Super Theological Academy because they had graduated from the academy after this battle. They transferred to the nearest military airport, then took a transport plane and flew directly over the vast South China Sea, and landed on an aircraft carrier in an aircraft carrier battle group. This is where the headquarters of the Xiangbing company is located. The reason why it is set up here is to prevent the enemy from targeted bombing. On the other hand, it has enough space and conditions for takeoff and landing. Coupled with special carrier fighters, the Xiangbing company can quickly deploy troops throughout China. Although this sounds ridiculous to the Xiangbing company with the support of Dino technology, it is now the most efficient and convenient means of transportation. Sun Wukong also joined the Xiangbing company's combat sequence at Tukao's invitation, but he was not in the same team as Ge Xiaolun and others, but as a super combat force who was involved in saving the situation when necessary. On the other side, the loss of a vanguard ship is just a drop in the bucket for Doughty. They have already assembled heavy troops near the Pluto Bug Bridge. The Doughty King plans to launch a full-scale invasion of China, destroy China's resistance, hold back the troublesome existence of Sun Wukong, and then recover the power of the Divine River and the super genes of the Nyoxing warriors. As an animal civilization attached to the Death Song Academy, the Doughty King Zihao must work hard to express himself. Only in this way can the value of the Doughty civilization be reflected. Only value can allow the god of death, Karl, to give their Doughty more powerful power. For this goal, it is worth it even if the Dowdy civilization pays some casualties. However, before launching the war, King Dowdy planned to return to the River Styx to ask Karl, the god of death, to grant him the power to fight Sun Wukong, otherwise they, Dowdy, would be unilaterally massacred. While Dowdy was suspending his invasion of China, a dazzling light lit up along the edge of the known universe, along with a warp gate. More than 1,000 figures filed out of it, led by Binghua and his other angel warriors. Queen, should we go back to Merlot heaven now or go directly to the god of death, Karl, to settle accounts? Ran asked loudly, and the other angels around him were also waiting for Hinghua's order. Let the death god Karl be happy for a while first, and let's go to the place where Kesha fell. No angel raised any objection, even Alan, who was most eager to avenge Queen Kesha, did not object because she also wanted to see where Queen Kesha finally fell. The reason why Binghua is not in a hurry to find trouble with Karl and Huaye is because Huaye's Tiangong army has been blocked by the angel civilization in the Angel Nebula. Although the Order of Justice has ceased to exist in name only due to the fall of Holy Kesha and Huaye's rampage, Binghua is not in a hurry to deal with Huaye, the pioneer who disrupts the universe. Because Binghua also wanted to see how many people were ready to take advantage of the angel when it was weak. After all the clowns jumped out, Binghua was ready to give them a hard blow. So he and He-11 conspired to let Marrow Heavenly Court maintain the current battle situation and not appear too relaxed. If it weren't for this, nearly 1 million border guard angels would join the battlefield. No matter how Huaye's power expanded, it would still be able to frustrate his current development momentum and make other civilizations that follow suit calm down. Of course, with the current size of the Tiangong group, it is not difficult for the angels to defeat the offensive of Huaye's Tiangong army, but what is difficult is to defeat the opponent, because there are so many civilizations under Huaye's command. These civilizations were unable to break through the defense systems of Merlot Heaven and even the planets where some angels settled, but they greatly affected the angels' military strength. On the front line, God-level angels often cripple a mixed fleet of Tiangong and want to pursue it. More warships will appear to protect the crippled fleet and escape. This has prevented Angel from causing serious damage to the Tiangong group. There were also capable people on Huaye's side. Seeing that they could not attack the Angel civilization for a long time, they opened a second battlefield and used troops aggressively against the Angel's affiliated civilization. The intention is also very obvious. Since I can't take Merlot Heavenly Court in a short time, then I will operate on your little brother first, and I will see whether you can protect him or not. Faced with this situation, Merlot Heavenly Court had to detach a part of the angel army to assist Sakaz, Kebra, and others in resisting the invasion of the Heavenly Palace servants. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1021. In the desolate cosmic zone, the land where gods fell, a sky blade with wounds on its surface floated quietly in the void of the universe. Although there were scars all over its body, the main body was still intact. However, because her driver was no longer there and there were no angels nearby, the sky blade system automatically shut down. Karl was not very interested in transforming the sky blade, while Huaye was unable to crack the sky blade system, and it was too troublesome to take it away. Kesha's flagship Sky Blade was left here without any care. As for other civilizations that witnessed the fall of the King of Gods, Huaye strictly prohibited them from touching anything here. After all, this was his trophy. And it is also quite memorable. After all, it was here that he defeated the Holy Kesha and completed the reversal from a loser to the current king of the palace. After nearly a year, a group of angels visited here again. Binghua came to the broken throne where Kesha was sitting before disappearing, and his eyes swept across the broken god-killing weapons inserted under the throne. Although Ran and other former members of Binghua felt sorry for the fall of Queen Kesha, they did not show it obviously. But Alan and some of the female angels loyal to Queen Kesha in the team were very sad. After all, the king they were loyal to was no longer there, leaving almost nothing behind. Ailan came to Binghua's side and stretched out her hand to touch the broken throne. She closed her eyes in pain. She had experienced the feeling of overwhelming pain twice in her life. The first time was when my sister Ella chose to die together with the Tiangong army on Marrow Star. The second time is now, that is the fall of Queen Kesha. Binghua didn't look too good either. After all, they were sisters who had been together for tens of thousands of years, so it was inevitable that she felt a little sad. Sky Sword, scan the surroundings and awaken the Sky Blade supercomputer. Binghua's personal dark computing cloud can only provide her with computing power assistance and cannot establish direct contact with supercomputers. As for Semialo, it is not the same system as the Angel supercomputing system at all, so establishing contact with the Sky Blade system still requires Sky Sword. Through Binghua's terminal, Tianjian didn't take much time to connect to the Tianren supercomputer that had automatically shut down. With the help of the Sky Blade supercomputer, Binghua directly reproduced the scene of Kesha's death. Even though he already knew the details, Binghua still watched the replay of the dark information and learned the information that in the face of the void energy that gave the concept of black hole devouring, sacred atoms would be devoured and destroyed. However, there were some details in the battle images that gave Binghua a new idea, and that was Kesha's arm that was severed by the Tiangong guards during the battle. Binghua was well aware of the characteristics of sacred atoms. Kesha did not choose to immediately let her arm disintegrate and turn into sacred atoms to return to the body. It was definitely not impossible to repair her broken arm, but she deliberately prevented the return of the sacred atoms. Moreover, after breaking off her arm, Kesha was immediately pierced through the body by Huaye, and then the sacred body was devoured. This tiny detail may not have been noticed by people at the time. But Binghua, who has a deep understanding of sacred atoms, knows very well that each sacred atom actually has a main body of information written in it to ensure the accuracy of the restoration. At the same time, these sacred atoms are equivalent to microcomputers that can position each other to speed up recovery. Binghua raised his hands to connect to the supercomputer connected to the Sky Blade at his feet, opened his eyes of insight, and input the parameters of the sacred atoms into the scanning system for screening. Seeing Binghua's sudden movement, some angels were sensitive to the abnormality. Ailan, who was closest and had a good understanding of the sacred language, knew what Binghua was doing. Immediately, a glimmer of hope emerged in her heart, which was filled with sadness. Although it was so slim, it was still hope. Binghua's first search ended in failure, but then he thought that if it was really so easy to be scanned, it probably wouldn't escape Carl's eyes. So Binghua began to narrow the scope, defining the space around the Tianren, and conducted a precise search. Soon Binghua suddenly opened his eyes. "How's it going? Did you find Queen Kesha's sacred atom?" Binghua took a deep breath and nodded. Seeing this, the other angels around him also showed a surprised smile. Kesha's sacred atoms spread very widely and are very thin. It will take me a certain amount of time to reunite them. After saying that, Binghua began to operate, using his own force field driving technology to start collecting the extremely rare sacred atoms around the Sky Blade. A few hours later, Binghua had found all the scanned sacred atoms, and used the recovery properties of the sacred atoms to aggregate Kesha's remaining sacred atoms. Binghua stretched out his palm, and the golden light particles gradually gathered in his palm and transformed into the shape of an angel. In the darkness, Kesha didn't know how long she had stayed here. She regretted the backup plan she had left behind. If the sacred atoms he left behind were not discovered by He-11 and Binghua, he would probably sleep in this darkness forever until his consciousness was exhausted. Because she has been deemed dead in the angel's supercomputer, if not done, the divine atom could easily be traced by the great clock via signal. It is precisely because she finally severed the link with the sacred Kesha's knowledge treasure house that the remaining sacred atoms escaped the regular scanning of the great clock. However, as time passed, Kesha suddenly realized that the sacred atoms she left behind were being aggregated, and then her consciousness jumped out of the closed space that was used to protect her consciousness from being invaded. Kesha slowly opened her eyes, and what came into view was a huge and familiar face, which made her subconsciously step back. "Wake up!" Queen Kesha wakes up. Elan cheered excitedly, like a child who hasn't grown up yet, and the other angels around him also smiled happily when they saw this. Only then did Kesha react and looked around, realizing that she was being held by Binghua in her hands, and that her current body shape was very small. "Binghua, can I ask what's going on?" Binghua said apologetically, "I'm sorry, because I was in a hurry to assemble your sacred atoms, I didn't think too much about it. And Kesha, your remaining sacred atoms can only form a body of this size, so." He didn't say anything else, but Kesha could see a smile from the corner of Binghua's eyes. "Forget it, you can find the sacred atoms I left behind and reunite them." "I should thank you." Kesha sighed, and then asked about the current situation in Merlot Heaven. Elan volunteered and began to tell what he knew about the situation. The reason why Kesha was not allowed to directly read the information depended on Kesha's current state. Binghua proposed to let Kesha reconnect to the angel's supercomputer, because Kesha's entire divine body information is stored there, and enough sacred atoms can be quickly created to restore it to its full glory. After Kesha heard that angel civilization had lost her, she still blocked the attack of Hui Tiangong group and directly rejected Binghua's proposal. "I think it's good to be in such a relaxed state now. Isn't Hexi the regent doing a great job? Then let her continue to be the one." Kesha, wearing regular clothes, flapped her wings and flew to Binghua's shoulder, found a suitable corner to sit down, said with a smile, and then added another sentence. "And don't tell other angels that I'm alive." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1022. Kesha's resurrection was not part of Binghua's original plan, which forced Binghua to reformulate her next plan. She planned to find a safe area to build a temporary angel palace. After much deliberation, she knew that in the known universe, apart from the Marrow Heavenly Court, it was the Shenzhou in the Chiwa star system. After all, it was still her territory in name. Apart from anything else, Sun Wukong and her were old acquaintances, and Leng had reported to her before that China had launched the Dino God-making project. It was said that it was a special unit codenamed Xiangbing Company, but later because Huaya led the army to invade, Binghua no longer received information about China from Leng. She is also quite curious about the anti-void ability of the power of Kamigawa. Although she has information about the power of Kamigawa, the resources on hand are not rich enough to establish an anti-void god-making project for technical verification. After all, this was something developed by the former president of the Super Theological Seminary, and was later modified by Dexing. Many of the technical details have been lost due to the destruction of Dino civilization. At the same time, Hyoka also wants to use Kamigawa's anti-void ability to find a way to restrain Karl's phantom body. Now she can certainly rely on the sub-biological engine to make Karl uncomfortable. But if he wants to truly destroy Karl's phantom body, Binghua has no clue yet. The only possibility is to destroy the big clock. But the size of the big clock is too huge, and destroying it is not something that can be accomplished in a short time. That's why Binghua didn't go to the Styx galaxy to find Karl's trouble as soon as he came up. But Binghua doesn't intend to remain silent like this. She wants to tell Karl that she is back and she is so domineering and confident. Even if she cannot destroy you, she will still scare you. Maybe your family will be gone that day. As Binghua led his Angel War group to the Chiwa star system, the war in the Angel Nebula also reached a fever pitch. This war between the Just Order and the Tiangong group can also be called the third war between male and female angels, because the leaders on both sides are respectively the female angels who represent the present and the male angels who represent the past. And as time came to the 10th month after Kesha's fall, the Marrow Guards who were used by Carl to use space transfer and dropped into the entire known universe during the Battle of God's Fall began to return one after another. The participation of a large number of high-level angels in the battle completely caused Huaye's side to lose the initiative in combat, and the initial all-out attack turned into a stalemate. Most civilizations under the Tiangong banner are afraid that the Merlot Guards will break through the defense line and break in to kill them randomly, so any tactical actions are carried out with caution. This gave Marrow Heavenly Court enough time to adjust its forces and cut off all the tentacles extended by the Tiangong group, but the Merlot Guards were unable to hide, making Huaye full of fear. That was not an ordinary angel legion, but nearly 1,000 high-level angels. When they launched an attack, no civilization could block their blades, not even Huaye's Tiangong Imperial Guards. The most effective way to fight against them at present is to use the human sea tactic to drown the charge of the Merlot Guards and drag them into a war of attrition. After losing more than 10 members, the Merlot Guards no longer blindly charged on the battlefield, but chose to wait for the opportunity to put huge pressure on the Tiangong side. While the Order of Justice and the Tiangong group were having intense exchanges, after several months of exploration within the known universe, the triangular creatures finally determined that the angels' retreat was not a trap. Moreover, the triangle creatures also learned some valuable information from some Kamigawa civilizations, that is, the queen of the angelic civilization, Holy Kesha, who had been preventing them from entering the known universe, fell into the internal struggle of the Kamigawa creatures. With the fall of Holy Kesha, the biological civilization of the Shenhe body fell into fierce internal fighting. Among them, the angel civilization was besieged on all sides and had enemies all over the world. The mottled Blue Empire then decided to enter the known universe. The living planets in the galaxy where they were located could no longer satisfy their survival. They needed more living planets to expand the living space of their people. The reason why the mottled Blue Empire is so eager is because, unlike the Kamigawa civilization, although the triangle has evolved a powerful body that can travel in the universe, it cannot survive in the universe forever. Every once in a while, triangular organisms need to return to the ocean of the living planet to recuperate and make up for the lack of nutrients in the body after leaving the ocean. But unlike the Kamigawa biological civilization that develops science and technology, the triangle organisms can certainly use their own magnetic field manipulation technology to change the planet's magnetic field to achieve the purpose of transforming the planet, but this time is really too long. Therefore, it is faster to use a magnetic field to rapidly expand the ocean on the planet and submerge the land than to slowly transform it yourself, to find a ready-made planet with life. This is also the reason why the mottled Blue Empire has always been obsessed with the known universe, because there are too many life planets in the known universe. However, because the known universe has had extremely powerful civilizations in every era, the mottled Blue Empire's several attempts to enter the known universe ended in failure. But now that the known universe is in unprecedented chaos, the mottled Blue Empire feels that it should be able to encroach on part of the star field of the known universe. When he transforms all the life planets in his control into ocean-based planets suitable for his own survival, everything will be a foregone conclusion. Mottled Blue's invasion is very secretive. They specifically look for the invasion of civilizations that are inconspicuous at the edge of the known universe. This makes the advanced civilizations of the known universe who are all focused on the Order of Justice and the Tiangong group not discover this hidden presence. Dark Crisis. When Binghua arrived at the Chiwu star system through Angel's Stargate channels all over the known universe, he couldn't help but frown. Because at this moment, the cosmic domain of the Chiwu star system close to China is filled with huge battleships that look like crosses. They are obviously the Daudi civilization that participated in the Shinai plan. Although I don't know why the Daudi civilization came to the Chiwu star system, this is the planet system under her name. Binghua then spoke out and gave an order to the angels behind her. Go out together and sweep them away for me. I don't want to see any warships from the Daudi civilization appear in this space. Binghua said coldly, and after hearing his queen's order, the Angel elites immediately rushed out and crashed into the Dowdy battleship group like meteors. At this moment, in the flagship where King Dowdy was located, the moment Binghua and his group of angels appeared, they were observed by the scanning equipment of the Dowdy battleship. After all, they were Styx's thugs, so it was impossible not to detect the presence of angels. In addition, Binghua and his group of angels did not hide themselves intentionally, so it was normal for them to be detected. The Dowdy King Zihao didn't pay much attention when he heard his subordinates reporting that angels had appeared near Pluto. He knew that China and the angel civilization were allies. Now that Dowdy has entered the Chaiwa star system, it is not surprising that the Merlot Heavenly Court has sent several teams of angels to coordinate with China in defense. But then Zihao noticed the panic look on his men's faces and said impatiently, "If there is anything else, let's talk about it. If you are still hesitating like this, get out of my flagship. Don't dare, Howling King, it's like this, there are a lot of angels appearing near Pluto, more than 1,000. And according to dark energy reactions, more than half of them are high-level angels, and some have exceeded the detection limit of dark energy detectors." After saying that, the Dowdy officer quickly lowered his head, fearing that he would be angered by King Dowdy Zihao. But at this moment, Zihao no longer cares about irritating his subordinates. Compared with ordinary Dowdy warriors, as the Dowdy King, he knows very well what the energy intensity that exceeds the limit of the dark energy detector means, that is God. How could the angels' god of war appear here? Shouldn't they be facing off against Huaya in the Angel Nebula and fighting fiercely? Why would there be extra troops running to this remote corner of the Chaiwa star system? Just when Zihao was thinking this, another subordinate came to report. "King, those angels are rushing towards us." The Dowdy King Zihao couldn't sit still anymore and immediately stood up from his throne and issued orders directly over the communication. The entire Dowdy fleet listens to the order, stops the purge operation against China, and immediately launches defense to prevent the angels from approaching. The Dowdy fleets that were conducting orbital bombardments on military facilities of various countries on the Blue Star ceased fire and moved away from low Earth orbit to prevent their speed from being affected by the gravity of the Blue Star. At this moment, major cities and military facilities in the land of China have suffered from orbital bombing by the Dowdy civilization, causing heavy losses in military strength. Although the Dowdy fleet began to evacuate Blue Star, the small ships they left behind in various countries and their marines were still clearing out the resistance forces in various countries. But when the Dowdy fleet stopped conducting orbital bombardments, China's ground forces and remaining air forces finally had a chance to breathe. Especially after learning from General Ducao of the Xiangbing Company headquarters that Dowdy was no longer capable of orbital bombing, the air force and missile forces, which had been hiding, immediately began to counterattack. The originally unscrupulous Dowdy army faced a saturation attack. The exoskeleton armor on their bodies could no longer protect them, and they were blown to pieces one after another. Then the armored troops broke into the battlefield and began to clean up the Dowdy troops who survived the saturation bombing. At the same time, they protected the residents in the city from evacuating the war zone, but the price was a linear increase in casualties. If the Dowdy space fleet does not stop bombing Blue Star, various countries on Blue Star are already preparing to use their last resort, which is the Trinity saturation nuclear strike. Although under the strong technological gap, most nuclear warheads in saturation nuclear strikes may be intercepted, as long as they hit 1%, Blue Star will still make a profit. After all, the nuclear bombs stored by various countries on Blue Star are enough to destroy the surface of the planet under their feet countless times. Of course, this is the last resort to die together, because each country knows very well what kind of hell they will face after Blue Star falls into the hands of Dowdy, that is, becoming slaves for them to kill to please the gods. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 1023. And what is the Xiangbing Company, the super force formed by Shenzhou, doing at this moment? The answer is that they are recuperating from their injuries. Facing Daodi's tidal wave of offensive, even Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang, the most physically powerful members of the Xiangbing Company, cannot maintain their combat effectiveness all the time. Although generally the particle weapons in the hands of the Daodi soldiers can only cause very slight trauma to them, there are small vehicles and flying combat boats in the Daodi army. The high-power particle light cannon equipped with that thing is specially used to hit armored units. Even Lu Chuang needs to slow down if he is hit by that thing, otherwise the physical trauma will gradually accumulate and his dark energy reserves will be quickly consumed. When defending the Super Seminary, because there were complete support facilities and a secretly established defense system, the Xiangbing Company did not suffer any damage. But after receiving the order to cover the evacuation of civilians in the nearest Tianhe city, the Xiangbing Company finally realized the cruelty of the interstellar battlefield. Without air superiority, it was extremely difficult for the Xiangbing Company and the surrounding armies to fight, and there would often be precise orbital bombings falling from the sky when they got together. Less than half an hour after the battle started, the Xiangbing Company was dispersed, and they could only rely on the dense buildings in Tianhe city to fight independently. After finally achieving some results, the Xiangbing Company was noticed by Daodi's commander, and discovered that Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang were their targets. Therefore, 4 teams of Daodi warriors who had received the blessing of death flew out from the Vanguard flagship in the sky to find trouble for Ge Xiaolun and others. Not long ago, Ge Xiaolun and the others fought against Daodi's mechanical warriors, and they only managed to kill one of them with the help of the entire team. Now one can imagine the outcome of their encounter again. But in fact, the Xiangbing Company has grown very fast. The enemy that only a month or 2 ago required the cooperation of all members to kill is no longer enough in front of Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang. As the intensity of dark energy in his body increased, Lu Chuang's supergenetic characteristics were no longer what they used to be. His physical strength was so strong that even the damage caused by Kailan's god-killing armor-piercing projectile on his body was minimal. Ge Xiaolun's galaxy power gene has also recently awakened the internal angel gene sequence, possessing angel wings and air combat capabilities. So Lu Chuang and Ge Xiaolun each entangled several gluttonous mechanical warriors, while Jace carried out fixed-point bombardment, and Kailan fired to cover her teammates. Qianggui also used her time and space ability to entangle an enemy. After this period of training, Rui Mingmeng's genetic characteristics of the Nyoxing sharp knife in her body have been fully revealed. Its steel-like body allows Rui Mingmeng to ignore conventional weapon strikes. Combined with the sharpness of the dark alloy sword in her hand and the dark energy drive, she can fight a gluttonous mechanical warrior back and forth. But this has almost reached the limit of the super gene of the Nyoxing sharp sword. After all, it is a mass-produced super gene used to equip the army on a large scale, so one cannot expect too much. After working hard to deal with several Daodi mechanical warriors, the remaining Daodi mechanical warriors received some order and left. Just when the Xiangbing Company thought that they had won the victory, the calamity fire from the sky told them that unless they grew up to be the main gods described by the academy teachers, nothing could be changed on the interstellar battlefield. The orbital bombing that fell from the sky plowed the area where the Xiangbing Company was located several times, but Lu Chuang and Ge Xiaolun were not seriously injured. But Yaoan, Zhao Xian, and almost all the other members of the Xiangbing Company, including Jace, suffered serious injuries, among which Kailan, who was relatively fragile, was the most seriously injured. Qianggui was lucky enough to escape to a safe place by relying on her own space handling ability. When Daodi's recovery team arrived, Sun Wukong rushed in and fought back the attacking Daodi, thus allowing the Xiangbing Company to escape the disaster. As the patron saint of China, Sun Wukong puts great pressure on the Daodi invading troops because all their conventional weapons cannot cause damage to them. In order to prevent Sun Wukong from running into his own fleet and causing trouble, King Daodi also used extremely insidious weapons of mass destruction to target China. As soon as Sun Wukong left the surface of China and showed signs of intention to rush into the universe, he opened fire directly, and a city also became a victim of Sun Wukong's attempt. This made Sun Wukong extremely angry. If he had known this, when he discovered that the Daodi fleet was approaching China, he should have rushed into the universe and defeated them all. It wasn't until a group of angels suddenly appeared in the universe and rushed into the Daodi fleet to massacre them wantonly that the Daodi began to withdraw its troops from China, and even the ground troops had no time to gather them. Except for a dozen or so of the angel battle group brought by Binghua as guards, the rest rushed into Daodi's fleet and wreaked havoc. The light energy barriers that the Daodi battleship was proud of were shattered under the flame bombardment of several high-level angels. The huge hull was directly cut open by the blazing energy and turned into a ball of fire in the universe. Some of the god-level angels in the attacking angel battle group did not have to be so troublesome. The heavenly blade judgment did not put much pressure on their calculations. The torrent of light that illuminated the dark starry sky passed through the gathered gluttonous fleet one after another, leaving behind the wreckage of the battleship scattered below. The Daodi King Zihao did not dare to order the fleet to counterattack, because the longer it stayed here, the greater the losses to the Daodi civilization would be. In order to hold back the angel, the king of gluttonous howlers cut off his arm and left part of the fleet to act as a suicide squad, while the rest jumped towards the Pluto insect bridge. When the Daodi King Xianhao led the remaining Daodi fleet to escape near Pluto, the fleet's detection system had just marked Binghua and dozens of angels who were staying here. Before the Daodi King Zihao could make any move, a long spear with a blazing edge surging at the front directly penetrated the light energy barrier of his flagship and sank into the interior of the flagship. Immediately, a dazzling ball of fire rose up among the Daodi fleet, swallowing up a dozen surrounding battleships. Only a few remaining vanguard flagships rushed into the opened Pluto insect door and disappeared without looking back. "Goddess, why should we let them go?" a female angel behind Binghua asked in confusion. Binghua stretched out her hand and shot out a silver light from the fire cloud that had not dissipated in the distance. She held it in her hand. It turned out that the mimic star inlaid on the head of the gun had already the dimming star-piercing spear. "Isn't it obvious? Kill them all. Who will report the news that I am here to Karl? Are you waiting for him to send a group of minions to investigate and disgust me?" Binghua said with some displeasure, and Kesha, who was trapped in the fluff of her Angel King armor scarf, said with emotion, "I haven't worked with you for so many years, but your style of doing things is still so strong. I suddenly want to see Karl's wonderful face when he heard the news that you are still alive." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1024. I guarantee he won't look too pretty. Hearing Kesha's words in his ears, Binghua responded, and then flew away in the direction of China with a dozen angels around him. Less than 2 hours after Angel broke into the battlefield, Daodi's fleet in the space near Blue Star had been almost destroyed. A large number of battleship wreckage are floating in the universe, and from time to time, the wreckage turns into meteors and falls towards the nearby China, creating a fleeting stream of light on the horizon. Although Binghua did not issue an order, the high-level angels who were free still chose to help China eliminate the remaining gluttonous troops on the Earth. With the help of humanoid space battleships like Angel, the established Daodi Legion was quickly dispersed, and the remaining few fled in all directions, pursued by the Chinese army. Thank you very much for your help. On behalf of all the people of China, I would like to thank Angel Civilization for helping us survive this disaster. An older man in a suit from the North Star thanked a high-level angel who landed. No need to thank me, this is an order from the goddess, and we represent the righteous world, not the angelic civilization. In addition, our goddess should stay here for a while. We have some things that need to be communicated with China. It is best to let Tokyo be responsible for connecting with us. This high-level angel warrior was authorized by Binghua to come to communicate with China. His words were neither humble nor arrogant, and he did not mean to take credit or be arrogant. When the Chinese side heard that the other party asked Tokyo to connect with them, they hesitated for a moment before agreeing and immediately contacted Tokyo. As for the high-level angel who negotiated with China on behalf of Binghua, he was placed in a relatively intact lounge waiting for Tokyo to arrive. It was several hours before Tokyo hurriedly arrived at the Northern Star from the Titan. During this period, Tokyo also learned that the ones who helped China were not the angels from Merlo Heaven, but from the known universe. Their nickname is the High-Level Angel Fighting Group under the Justice World. And the leader of this so-called Just World is clearly Binghua, the nominal master of China. The high-ranking angel didn't talk nonsense to Tokyo. He directly opened a micro-wormhole and took Tokyo away from the Northern Star to a grassland with a good view. At this moment, angels in this area are gathering together in twos and threes to chat, obviously taking a rest. Regarding Tokyo's appearance, these angels only glanced at it and did not take another look, because Tokyo was just a mortal in their eyes. In fact, Tokyo has also received super genetic modification, but not for combat, so he doesn't look much different from ordinary people. After traveling for a while, under the gaze of several powerful-looking female angels, Tokyo finally saw Binghua sitting on a stone seat. "Your Excellency, King of Heavenly Sword, I haven't seen you for a long time, but your style is still dazzling," Tokyo complimented, and Binghua raised his hand to signal Tokyo not to be so polite. At the same time, behind him, the ground rolled up and a similar stone seat appeared. Faced with such an obvious invitation, Tokyo was not too polite and went face to face with Binghua. Seeing this formation, the surrounding angels also dispersed slightly. "I called you here because I had a few things to inform the Chinese authorities, but I didn't want to talk to them slowly, so I approached you." Tokyo had already expected that Binghua specially invited him here to talk about something, and he nodded and told Binghua to go ahead and talk. "First of all, I won't care about anything in China, or any conflicts between the two sides of the province, but I will requisition the moon for a period of time to build a temporary palace. In addition, Karl also knows that I am in the Chiwa star system. If Karl knows, that means Huaye also knows. Next, they are likely to send heavy troops to the Chiwa star system to contain me." Tokyo looked solemn when he heard this, because what Binghua said was true. Next, the Chiwa star system will officially enter the sight of every civilization in the universe and become the focus of the entire universe. "I understand, I will convey your meaning to China, but please allow me to ask more. Your Excellency, King Tianjian, why did you choose the location of your palace here in the Chiwa star system? Is there anything special here?" Facing Tokyo's question, Binghua smiled and said, "Tokyo, your question is a bit redundant. If my palace is not built on my own territory, why can't it be built on someone else's territory?" Tokyo already knew Binghua's answer, and then he resigned from Binghua and left. "Goddess, why don't we just build a palace here? The environment here is obviously better." A high-level angel who was born as the judgment angel of the just world wondered why the goddess took so much trouble to inform the leadership of this world. Shouldn't they feel honored that the goddess chose to come to their world? This is different from the justice world. They only belong to my name in name, but I have never ruled them. In addition, I disdain to compete with them for the so-called civilizational sovereignty, which is not worth mentioning in my eyes. Binghua replied casually, the reason was similar to what she said. If she really insisted on building a palace in China, no one could stop her. But this will undoubtedly make China feel that its sovereignty has been violated. Although this is stupid, intelligent life will always pay a huge price for this. Binghua was too lazy to discuss these trivial matters with Shenzhou. Fortunately, he directly chose the moon, which they were not yet capable of developing, as the location for his temporary palace. The Chinese side learned from Tokyo that in the future, a big shot of the same level as Holy Kesha would build his own temporary palace on the moon. They were a little worried at first. But when I heard that the Chaiwa star system would become the main battlefield for the Order of Justice, the Tiangong Group, and the Styx Galaxy, I immediately figured it out. A big boss lives next door to Shenzhou, and this is not a tight embrace, so Shenzhou Lightspeed passed a series of proposals for possible future cooperation with the Angel Palace on the moon. The reason why no one clings to the issue of civilizational sovereignty is because the Stouty invasion has dealt a huge blow to various countries in Blue Star, almost destroying every country in the world. Some countries have even begun to call for the formation of a Blue Star coalition government and the establishment of a space defense force to defend against threats from extraterrestrial civilizations. As for the coming of angels, other countries except China have a kneeling attitude, because they are not as knowledgeable as China, and they have been beaten by Dowdy and have lost confidence in the future.